And welcome here to a special edition, a special week of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. As you can see, we are not in Nebraska. We are in lovely Honolulu, Hawaii, at the Sheraton Princess Hotel property here in Waikiki. Steve Sipple, right in the heart of the destination. And the reason that we're here all week is because of the Polynesian Bowl, as Dylan Raiola, Nebraska quarterback recruit, will be playing this game, as will Carter Nelson, tight end recruit Preston Talamoa. Now, head coach Matt Rule was in Honolulu on Monday. We unfortunately weren't able to catch up with the coach because we missed him with some flight troubles, but we made it here. And before I get into your opening thoughts, Steve Sipple, I got to thank our sponsors as well, as the coverage here of the Polynesian Bowl this week brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill in Lincoln, Tavern 180 as well, and then HBE, the accounting firm and advisor on 56 and Pine Lake Road. I'm a client of HBE as well, and they do great work. So thank you to all three of our sponsors bringing us this exclusive coverage, Steve Sipple, from Honolulu, Hawaii. We're out here. It's 7 a.m. local time. We're going to head over to practice in a little bit. It should be a great way to kick things off.
Yeah. I mean, it's all happened pretty quickly. We had some travel issues, but yeah, we're here, and it'll be fun to see these guys working out. I mean, Preston Tamua is the number one rated player in Hawaii. I mean, he's the guy who gets a little overlooked for obvious reasons. I mean, Carter Nelson's the number one player in Nebraska, and Dylan Raiola is the number one player in the world. Yeah, I'm interested to see Tamua. I hope I'm saying his name right. And yeah, it's fun. And Sean, I feel kind of guilty. Everybody, I mean, a lot of my family's saying you just went out there and escaped the cold. I think it's minus 23 in Lincoln today, and we're sitting out here in short pants.
Why do you call shorts short pants?
Because they're short pants. That's what they are, Sean.
You had that short pants.
And stop. We're sitting out here. We're trying to get along, and we're sitting out here, and it's warm. I brought down
What is it right now? It's 72 right now.
Yeah, I brought down a sweatshirt and just took it back up to the room. God, people don't want to hear this, Sean. People in Nebraska don't want to.
No, but we are. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, we traveled.
It's not going to be a lot of work.
We drove down to Kansas City. Well, and we're going to go to practice every day and write and do shows all week. And we'll have a special live show here as well Friday. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Dylan Raiola live in a practice setting throw.
Yep.
You know, the coaches in this game are fascinating too. Marvin Lewis and then Mike Zimmer, former NFL head coaches, will lead these two teams. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is being inducted into the Polynesian Bowl Hall of Fame. I'm told there's a decent chance he'll be at the game on Friday. Not official yet, but there's a lot of just interesting storylines. Obviously, Dominic Raiola, he's from Honolulu, Hawaii. So the connections that he has to this community, and his brother Donovan. And Donovan, by the way, expected to be at practice today as well on Tuesday.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, the Raiolas are gigantic in Honolulu. They're from Honolulu, so yeah, it'll be sort of interesting today to see what the setup looks like, to see what they actually do. I mean, some Nebraska fans will remember a snowy night in January. I think it was 2000. Would have been 2004 when Zimmer was actually in Memorial Stadium as a possible candidate to succeed Frank Solich as Nebraska's head coach.
When you think about it, like, he was on campus.
Yeah, he was there. He was at the stadium. One of the guards called me over at the Journal-Star when I was working at the Journal-Star, the Lincoln newspaper, and said, "Hey, I don't know if you're interested in this or not, but they're showing Mike Zimmer around." I remember vividly because it was a blizzard. I mean, it was a blizzard like we just had in Lincoln. It was maybe a little bit more than that, actually. So, yeah, it was pretty wild.
And everybody thought he was actually going to take the job for a short minute.
Did I?
Well,
don't
the fact
remember
that he came on campus for a public tour, you don't just do that.
It was the next day. By the time most people found out, the next day he had re-signed. He re-upped. He got a big raise from the Cowboys. I think he came there for a raise, is what I think. But anyway, Zimmer was at the time the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, and it was the top-rated defense in the NFL. So he was hot.
You're listening here to the Husker Online show as we're out here in Honolulu. Once again, our coverage brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180 and HBE here in Lincoln, bringing us all this great coverage from the road here in Honolulu this week. But yeah, it's the game is Friday, 8 o'clock on the NFL Network, Central Time, 4 o'clock local time. And it'll be played in a high school stadium, and it's sold out. So
is it really?
There'll be a full crowd, and
it's sold out.
Yeah, and I like the fact they're doing it in that type of venue. I've been to a lot of all-star games where they try to play it like in a more of a pro stadium or college, and it's just going to look empty. It's just like playing the high school state championship game in Memorial Stadium. It's hard to make it look full. This will be a full atmosphere, but Raiola, you'll get to see him in action, and you know, this game itself has really become one of the top all-star games out there, making a run to be the best. They have 13 5-stars on the roster.
This is the most talent they've had ever in this game,
and they,
according to their football director,
they've closed the gap, if not surpassed, Under Armour and the All-American Bowl. I mean, you know why? Because kids want to come to Hawaii,
and they get their expenses paid.
Yeah,
the kids do.
Yeah, and that's generally the case for all-star games. There's some that will make you pay to play in them, but this is one of the big three now, and it's later. And that's what's interesting to me is, like, literally these guys are going to play here Friday. And for Dylan Raiola, he'll start classes in Lincoln on Monday, but we know he's already been back in Lincoln and helping recruiting. And we're going to catch up with Dylan all week when we get out to practice here on Tuesday.
And they have the winds whipping today, Sean. But they're going to have to throw in some wind out there. It'll be kind of interesting to see that. But yeah, what's this hotel called?
The Sheraton Princess.
Sheraton Princess. So we're right in Honolulu. Are we kind of like downtown Honolulu?
Yeah, I don't know enough to know this for sure, but it feels like the prime tourist area, Waikiki. I mean, I went up and down the strip, and every major shopping brand you could think of was up and down by our hotel. So it's a highly buzzing area, lots going on.
Yeah, highly buzzing. We whipped in here last night. I mean, like late afternoon. So we're just kind of getting acclimated ourselves,
getting our sea legs.
Yeah, I mean, this is all moving pretty fast for an old man, Sean.
No, yeah, well, and we wanted to keep our normal schedule of shows. I mean, ideally we would have been at practice Monday and did a show Tuesday, but we didn't get in. Right. But we still wanted to continue to do what we're doing with our show schedule, and we'll be back Thursday with a headline show as well.
We had travel delays. I think Carter Nelson did too. He didn't make it for the Monday practice.
Well, and Coach Rule and I talked briefly last night, and he had, I think he had some issues. And, I know he flies private a lot of times, but I don't think you fly private to Hawaii. That's.
Oh, I don't know. Is that right? You don't?
Well, you have to have a certain plane that can go that long.
Okay.
Over the ocean.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Hey, so Carter Nelson didn't make it in time for the Monday practice.
No.
Right?
So this will be his first practice. Like when we saw Carter, he had just gotten into town, and his dad Jake will be in town later in the week on Thursday as well.
Carter said he was going to have dinner with Dylan and Matt Rule. So it's good. That was a good deal. That was a good night for those guys last night. All
right. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to be joined in our next segment by a special guest. Somebody kind of with some Husker ties, Jesse Sapolu, San Francisco 49er great, one of the all-time greatest Polynesian players in the history of the game, is going to join us here on the Husker Online show. His son Roman was an assistant coach for Mike Riley back in the day. Roman is one of the coaches here, but Jesse played in the NFL with several former Huskers, Roger Craig, Jamie Williams, Tom Rathman. So he's going to offer a lot of great insight, tell us more about Honolulu in this game this week. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, as we are on location. As you can see, we're in lovely Honolulu, Hawaii. Once again, our coverage here of the Polynesian Bowl brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180 in Lincoln, as well as HBE. advisors here in Lincoln. And Sip, I told you on the break, we're going to have a special guest joining us on here. And he's got a little bit of Husker connection to him because his son Roman was a coach at Nebraska. But let's welcome in the legendary Jesse Sapolu to the Husker Online show. You are one of the organizers of this game. You work currently with the San Francisco 49ers right now as well, where you had a legendary career where you played with a lot of Husker guys there as well. Jesse, thank you for joining us, and it's a pleasure to be here in Hawaii with you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a joy to play with some of the Husker greats, Roger Craig, Tom Rathman, Jamie Williams. We was able to come and visit our son as he was growing as a coach in Nebraska, as a grad assistant. So, they always have a soft spot in our hearts developing our son, and got to meet all the passionate fans in Nebraska. I mean, the consecutive sellouts is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
So hopefully they get it back to where it was.
Now, Doc, you brought another, or Jesse, you brought another special Husker fan with you,
Yes,
and that's why you're here doing the interview right now, because he moved your doctor's appointment to the hotel here this morning. I want you to introduce your Husker fan that you brought with you here.
This is Dr. Jason. He's diehard Cornhusker. The only reason I'm here is because I mentioned that I'm doing it with a radio station from a TV station from Nebraska, and I just want him to say hello to all of his fans back in Cornhusker country.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you guys for letting me be here. Jesse, thank you for letting me support all the players, Polynesian Bowl players, and their concussion care and brain treatment, and for working with you, and most importantly, to be here and be available for the future Huskers that are here. Very proud to see a few Husker signees here. Go Big Red.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Well,
Go
Jesse, tell us more about this game, because you've been involved with it from the beginning. What went into the idea of creating an all-star game in Hawaii? And this year might be your best ever roster with 13 five-star players, and it's quickly becoming, if not the best, one of the best in the country for the high school all-star games.
Well, our culture is very special to me, and our culture is very special to us. And I feel like there's a lot of us that our culture offers that will help our young men, when they move on to college and then move on to the NFL. When I played, when you get in trouble, they bring you in, they lecture you, and 3 newspapers in your town doesn't get a hold of it, or 3 TV stations, you're pretty safe to be lectured and corrected and move on with your career. Nowadays, these kids, when they sneeze, your career might be over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we offer as a culture is based on respect and humility.
Okay.
I think it's very, very important that some of these kids, a lot of the kids that have come through this game are already in the NFL. Puka Nakua, who had a great year, Talanoa Hufanga, who's an all-pro with the San Francisco 49ers. And those kids can go on and share our culture with some of our black kids that are here, some of our white kids that are here. It's a bonding that they have for a week. And, of course, get to play on national TV on the NFL Network. So a lot of great things going on. It's a game that we're very, very proud of. And then, of course, like you said, the first year we had AJ Epinesa. It was the only 5-star we had about 5 or 6 years ago. That's now with the Buffalo Bills. And now we have double digits 5-star guys, a lot of 4-star.
We're joined by 49ers great Jesse Sapolu. Now, Jesse, have you seen the community embrace this game?
Yes, we see, because, people here are on social media now.
Yes.
And some of these kids will be big-time college football players.
You bet.
The news about NILs are going around. Some of these kids are getting big NIL offers. So people want to see who's this 17-year-old getting all this money. The curiosity is there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, through all of that, we want to share our culture with these kids to help them navigate their journey, because the challenges are a whole lot different than when I came through. And we want these kids to give themselves an opportunity to have great careers and take care of their families.
What do they do throughout the week? I mean, what are the main, you try to get them around and see a lot of different tourist attractions, cultural things here on the island. What are the different things you have the players do here throughout the week?
Well, like yesterday is one of the most important things that we do is after practice, they get to go to Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And they go on the tour of the Arizona Memorial, and they get to see the sacrifice of some of our men and women of service to protect our rights to become the best football players that we can be. Now, the thing that's amazing is there's a narration that goes on. You wear the headphones, you go through the tour.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our young black players have no idea that the bombing of Pearl Harbor, there's a lot of black soldiers that lost their lives there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 2-3 years, they come off of that tour with tears rolling down in their eyes. And to me, that's really the most important thing, right? Today, they're going to spend the whole day out in the North Shore where they're going to be fed island food.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be practiced. All the islanders there are going to support them. And then they're going to end up with a dinner show tonight at the Polynesian Cultural Center. So,
wow, what a week.
It is an amazing week. I think it's what separates us and made our game grow so fast. We've already had the big two. The Army used to be called the Army.
I still call it the Army.
Yes, I still too. And then Under Armour came up with the game, but the Polynesian Bowl has grown leaps and bounds, not because we have a lot of money to put up the game, but because of the cultural aspect of why these kids come here. They learned the haka last night, which is a warrior dance.
Uh-huh.
It's a warrior dance. So they learned it on the beach, brought that bonding together, get themselves in a trance to become a warrior, and it's something that's different, right? It's not us giving them video games to play in their hotel room. They're constantly busy learning different things here. And of course, when you come to Hawaii, it's a very special place to come to.
Now, you mentioned the 5 stars. One of those 5 stars in this game is Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback, and his father, Dominic, and his uncle, Donovan, were legendary Honolulu high school football players that went on to have success at Nebraska and Wisconsin. How big was it to get Dylan Raiola in this game, and what do you know about him as a young quarterback?
Well, it's always one of the most important things for us to do is bring our top Polynesian players to play in this game. And obviously, he's the top-ranked guy this year.
Mm-hmm.
The history of the contribution of the Hawaiian Islands in Nebraska, his uncle and his well-known and is now still coaching at Nebraska. One of my memories here is I played in the Hula Bowl with another center from Nebraska named Dave Remington. We were playing we were same class coming out. So a lot of history here. Kids now are not afraid to go, past California to go to school. I think part of that is because they're so familiar with social media. They get to stay in touch with their families. We're cheering for Raiola to make a difference in that part of the country. I know his uncle was he might be a Ring of Honor or at Nebraska as an offensive lineman.
His dad, yeah.
Yeah, his dad. His father, Dominic.
St. Louis High product here in Honolulu.
That is awesome. And, Fonoti was another.
Tonu
Fonoti was another offensive lineman that made his mark there. So we want to continue to do that. And when I was coming up, a lot of Polynesians were known as Tonu Fonoti, Raiola,
right.
Sapolu, big guys.
Yeah.
But now we got quarterbacks coming up. So we have one that's at Tennessee, and now Raiola's coming to Nebraska. So we're very excited about
When did that evolution begin? When did you start seeing more quarterbacks of Polynesian descent?
I think it's just a matter of having social media to where parents from here are able to bring their sons to California and special train them.
Okay.
In the skill of the quarterback position. The other thing is when I was coming out, I was 6'3". I was considered really, really tall for Polynesian. We never had problems with the weight. We can be 16 years old and be 280 and be very, very normal.
Okay.
But 6'3" was really, really tall. Now we got linemen that are 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
I don't know what they're eating. The other
Brandon
thing is-
Baker.
right. Jordan Mailata, who's a left tackle with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
6'8". Maleava, who's the quarterback at Tennessee that just started the bowl game. Nico is 6'6". I mean, these kids, and I saw Raiola throw the ball yesterday at the quarterback competition we had. He threw it 75 yards, and it was very easy coming out of his hand.
Yeah.
You just look at that, and you're very proud of these young men. But at the same time, the number one goal for us is the coaches will take care of what they do on the field. We try to mentor them from a cultural standpoint in making sure they represent us well off the football field.
As we wrap it up here at Jesse Zapolu, I got to ask you about your time playing with a number of Nebraskans in San Francisco. Roger Craig, Tom Rathman, Jamie Williams. You got any good stories about those guys from your playing days in San Francisco?
Well, I mentioned that we played them here. My last game as a collegiate was against the Cornhuskers here, my senior year.
Oh, in Hawaii.
In Hawaii, and we had the lead. We had the lead. I think it was 20-10 at halftime. They had a Heisman Trophy winner named Mike Rozier as a running back. Nico Noga hit him in the second quarter. He sprained his ankle. It was like, we got him. We're up 20-10, and the Heisman Trophy winner just got hurt. But they had a backup running back named Roger Craig, and he came in and ran for about 180 yards in 2 quarters. Brought Nebraska back. So when I talked to Jamie and those guys, when we all became 49ers, they looked at me and said, Jess, you guys thought you had us, huh? We're the Cornhuskers, And that reputation was there back in the 80s,
Yep.
I mean, that was a machine, and I'm very, very proud to be teammates of those guys.
And you went to a couple games when Roman was coaching too, right?
Yes, I came to about 3 games. It was cold a few of those games. But then again, the experience that Roman had in Nebraska is invaluable to carry himself as he continues to grow as a coach, and I'm very thankful for that.
Now he's at Hawaii as an offensive coordinator, O-line coach.
Yes.
He's
here now. He was at Fresno State for 3 years. He started becoming his first full-time job was at Idaho State, but that's and then he worked at Fresno State. How fast things change with a guy named Kalen DeBoer, who is now the head coach at Alabama.
He bet on the right horse.
Yeah. So he learned from that tree, and now he's learning even more with the run and shoot that they have here.
Okay.
But that's all part of evolving as a coach.
Yep.
And Nebraska played a big role in that.
Well, Jesse, we appreciate you joining us here early this morning on Tuesday in Hawaii. Looking forward to a great week of activities here from the Polynesian Bowl.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again to
Have a
Jesse
good time.
Zapolu, former legendary NFL player of the 49ers, joining us once again. Our coverage from the Polynesian Bowl brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180, and HBE in Lincoln. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We're out here in Honolulu, mainly to watch Nebraska's future quarterback recruit, Dylan Raiola, also Carter Nelson, Preston Talamoa. Great interview with Jesse Zapolu. Before we get into the next topic here, once again, our coverage in Hawaii and at the Polynesian Bowl brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180, and HBE Consultants and Advisors in Lincoln. But speaking of quarterbacks, Steve Sipple, it appears Nebraska has their staff movement in place at this point. Glenn Thomas, who was the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks coach, has been a coordinator at Arizona State, worked with Matt Rule at Temple and Baylor. According to Mitch Sherman, our colleague and friend, he'll coach the quarterbacks for Nebraska next year. And this is a name that's been speculated for several weeks now, but the NFL season just ended yesterday for the Steelers. Glenn Thomas to coach quarterbacks, Marcus Satterfield to remain offensive coordinator, but now be the tight ends coach.
Right. And I think this is where you remind people that Rule's original plan, or his grand plan as he took that, as he became Nebraska's head coach, wasn't to have Satterfield coach the quarterbacks. It fell that way. So now he's made a change. And what I was saying, Sean, during the season and right after the season was Nebraska's turnover issues were extreme. And usually when something's extreme like that in a negative way, there should be changes, right? Or there often are changes. And here's a pretty big one. Bringing in Glenn Thomas, who has extensive college background and pro background. And he'll be, it looks like now, Sean, we're talking about a dedicated quarterbacks coach, pretty much.
A dedicated quarterbacks coach, Glenn Thomas, with Marcus Satterfield remaining as the OC and now coaching tight ends. So, what happens there with the tight ends coach before? I mean, it was an interim situation.
Okay. Yeah, with
Josh Martin, who stepped in for Bob Wager. And look, I don't think the move with Josh Martin was ever meant to be a permanent move. It was, I mean, their tight ends coach got let go in August.
Right.
And Josh Martin stepped up in that role.
And did a good job.
And did a fine job for what he was at. And he may stay at Nebraska and still, with the new analyst rules that could go into effect later, not much could change for him.
Right. So this is Matt Rule identifying, it wasn't hard to identify the turnover issue. Nebraska, I mean, at the end of the regular season, led the country in turnovers. And most of those turnovers came from the quarterback position. So something had to be done, and he did it. Rule is showing a lot. He's very aggressive. He doesn't hang back. It was a problem. He addressed it. So we'll see how that works out now.
Right. And I don't think, with Dylan Raiola coming in, you don't want to mess this up.
No.
And you heard Jesse Sapolu. They had a quarterback competition on Monday, and he could effortlessly throw a football 75 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jesse Sapolu off air said something really, really important, though, is now you just got to see if he can read. I mean, Jesse Sapolu and a lot of veteran football guys will tell you that the critical element, and Jesse Sapolu played with Joe Montana, and what did he say, Sean? Montana could dissect defenses. He could really read defenses well. He wasn't a spectacular athlete.
Talent.
Didn't have spectacular arm talent, but he could really read defenses. So we'll see that we'll just have to see with Dylan. My guess is he's fine that way, or maybe much better than fine. And then he'll be coached by Glenn Thomas. Pretty big breaking news here.
Glenn Thomas coaching the quarterbacks with Marcus Satterfield stepping in still in his role. And like you said, I mean, Marcus Satterfield, I don't think ever was intended to be the quarterbacks coach, but Matt Rule had a lot of things on his plate when he came to Nebraska. He had to recruit, salvage the roster, bring in transfers as well, and hire an entire staff of people. So it's natural that you're going to see some movement, I think, after a year one like last year. And we've seen some support staff people move on as well, for Matt Rule. So year one is never meant to be the perfect setup. You use year one to learn what it's going to take down the road to win. And this is Matt Rule doing that right now.
Yeah. We'll see how it all works out. Not only for Dylan Raiola, but Daniel Kalen and Heinrich Harburg. I mean, those, hey, Sean, we've seen it over and over at Nebraska. This isn't just the Dylan Raiola show. And by the way, I don't know if we can't really crown him yet, right?
No, I mean, he's got to prove it in practice. And, Heinrich Harburg has started several games at Nebraska. So he's
5-3.
He's a proven 8-game Big Ten starting quarterback that's, been under that role. And Kalen's comp. But yeah, I mean, Raiola, if all things break right, he's the guy.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I don't think we disagree on that.
No, we absolutely agree. But what I'm suggesting is you better get those other guys ready to roll because of, I mean, it's how often does a guy make it through without getting banged up, So yeah, this Glenn Thomas thing has been speculated. It's been
out there for about 6 weeks, but yeah. I mean, the fact that he's with an NFL team, you finish your season out. Now that doesn't always the case. Like Donovan Raiola was able to leave the Bears early to join Scott Frost, but
Steelers are in the playoffs.
Donovan Raiola, the Bears head coach, had already been fired, if I'm not mistaken, back then, and he was the assistant O-line coach. Mm-hmm. Glenn Thomas is the quarterbacks coach. So, when you're an actual true position coach for a pro team, you have to, the NFL is really strict about letting you out of those contracts. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll delve into Glenn Thomas as the day and week goes on.
All right. When we come back, we're going to get into the mailbag. We got a lot of questions to get to here from Honolulu. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. As you can see, we're not in Lincoln right now. We're in Honolulu, bringing you coverage of the Polynesian Bowl. Once again, the coverage here of the Polynesian Bowl and Husker Online brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180, as well as HBE Advisors and Consultants in Lincoln. Thank you for their sponsorship here of the Husker Online Show. But Sip, I want to get into the quarterback stuff in the mailbag, and we got an interesting first question. What about Dana Holgorsen? What does this mean with Dana Holgorsen? And I think
what mean the news of Glenn Thomas?
And I think you nailed this in Tunnel Talk earlier in the week. The thought of Holgorsen was never to be like a position coach. Like Dana Holgorsen has been a head coach long enough that, he's probably just looking to work somewhere and stay in the game. And it was, if he comes to Nebraska, it'd be as a potential analyst.
Yeah. On the offensive side of the ball, and probably, his background is largely working with quarterbacks. So offensive side of the ball, maybe help Glenn Thomas with the quarterback position. I don't know. Now I don't know what will happen, but I would tell you this: if that's the case, I like it. That position, as we're seeing, as we've seen for a long time, but it seems like it's more salient now than it's ever been. That's the position. That's the key. You got to get that one right. You got to get quarterback right if you're going to win at a high level. You can win at to a certain degree without great quarterback play, but it's hard to win at a real high level. Who's winning at a high level without great quarterback?
Yeah, I'll use Minnesota as an example. They don't generally have elite quarterback play for PJ Fleck, but they always figure out how to win 6 to 8 games.
Yeah.
And they're kind of topped out there.
Right.
And if you're trying to get to that next level to get to 9 or 10, which now is a playoff team.
Right. So that's why, and I don't know if I've even kind of captured the excitement of Dylan Raiola enough in my role. What you just said is critical. Minnesota hasn't been able to get over the hump because they haven't had supreme quarterback play. It's been pretty good,
serviceable.
Yeah,
man. They have game managers.
Yeah,
they have the running backs, and they've had the defense. They've had the tight ends. The receivers have been solid.
Right now, Dylan Raiola represents much more than if he is what we think, he represents much more than a game manager. Right? You saw when you look at Michigan and Washington, which just played for the national title. Those guys aren't just game managers, particularly Penix, but McCarthy can make plays. He was elite. You heard Harbaugh say best quarterback to ever play at Michigan. Hopefully, Nebraska just recruited what will eventually say is the best quarterback to ever play at Nebraska. And with the pieces that Nebraska has in place right now, they're already pretty good. A strong quarterback play can take them over the top. The question I have for you is, can you expect that much out of a freshman? I think we're talking down the line. I'd have to look back, Sean, but how many great freshman quarterbacks have there been in college? Guys that just came out.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I mean, they pretty much.
That's a good one.
You know what though?
Was he a freshman?
Did he? Did he not start right away?
I don't know.
Was Deshaun Watson there?
See, I don't know. You'd have to look back, but we don't need to go down that road. But that's what you. I just wonder how good
the schedule's there though.
Quickly,
I think they have a schedule to build him.
Yeah, I do too.
Like they're not having to play at Ohio State to start a season. There's a lot of things I think with the schedule.
Or even at Minnesota and at Colorado. Those were tough games out of the chute.
First time since 2019, Nebraska will play at home opener in Lincoln and to start a season, and also not against a Power 5 team.
Right.
And they've lost every one of the openers since then. 2020, 21, 22, and 23.
Mm-hmm.
and that gets coaches fired.
Yep, it can.
All right, let's get to the next question. Which of the early enrollees will make a run at spring ball? Now it's a huge group of early enrollees, Steve Sipple.
We'll make a run at spring ball, meaning
Too deep.
Oh, okay.
There's 17 high school early enrollees and 6 transfer portal players. So 23 new players will be there. Let's leave the transfer portal guys out of it. Besides Dylan Raiola, a name all I don't know. Keelan Smith is one.
How about Carter Nelson?
Well, Carter Nelson's not an early enrollee.
Oh, okay.
It's really tough, though, for freshmen right now in college football because of the COVID year. It's an older game right now. It's a much older game. And you don't see as many true freshmen starting in the Big Ten. You know, like Michigan didn't have in the national championship game. There wasn't a single true freshman starter.
I think that it's your hesitancy and the fact that you can't just rip off 4 or 5 guys off the top of your head is a good sign.
You don't want it to be that way.
Right. Yeah, I don't. Nebraska's got a pretty veteran defense. It's got a pretty veteran offense now. So I don't know. I don't like to make those predictions.
There was once a coach, Scott Frost said this once, to win in this league, you have to get old and stay old.
Yep. Nebraska's pretty old. They are pretty old right now.
And they've been able to do a really, really good job. All right, let's move in here. Let me find the next question. Best steakhouse in Oahu. We haven't gotten that far yet. We'll give you a better report by Friday. How about that?
We're just so people know, we are literally just settling in. I mean, we got here Monday evening. I had to write a column. I just went to my room. I went over at that little store across the street from the hotel, got some trail mix and a Dr. Pepper and wrote and went to bed and got up and it was dark and we're doing this show. I mean, that's it. That's been my Hawaii experience so far, which is basically no experience.
And we haven't had coffee yet. We
haven't even had coffee.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. So if we get a little chippy, we're looking for a coffee.
Are you feeling chippy?
No, I want coffee though. I'm like,
shocked.
I got down that lobby at 6.
Yeah.
They didn't have any coffee set up. I'm like, where's the coffee?
You know? They didn't have any set up.
So I'm grinding through. We got one more segment. Okay, question on the South Stadium from Coach Byer. Have we heard any information on the new South Stadium? As a guy that's been sitting in the South Stadium with my dad for 20 years, I'm worried. We likely won't be able to afford the new tickets with the grandfather clause of the Beef Club going away. Yeah, there is no update, but my advice, if I was just giving just my personal advice, they do the seat yourself thing every year. You know, if you really want to secure that you have seats in the future and you're in the South right now, you should relocate to the North. Like,
wow, really?
Seat yourself and relocate to the North. I mean, I think that at least we'll say, all right, there's 22,500 seats in the South right now. And some of those are students and the band and other things. You know, where are they going to put all those people when this all happens? Well, the North would be probably your safest, most affordable way to save your seats for those 2 years.
Will that be hard for some people to do that have sat in the South for all like our friend this sat in the South for all those years?
It's the donation tide. I mean, because there's gonna, you're probably not going to be able to just move into seats that don't have a higher donation. You know, it might be $250 more a seat.
This is going to be when's the impact go into effect
for the 25 season?
Okay, what we're talking about here is monumental. 2025, starting in 2025, it's a monumental job for the AD. It's going to be unwieldy at times when you mess with fans' tickets. You're going to be dealing with a lot of tough emails, a lot of negative letters as an AD. It's not going to be. This is going to be a.
Well, you know,
I can't even imagine what Trev Alberts is going to be going.
Do you know what the South End Zone is? That is like your blue collar, your grassroots fans. That is the part of the stadium that has the least donor dollars as far as like seat donations per seat, because it's the oldest. Like the seats aren't as good, the access is not as good, the amenities aren't as good. There aren't bathrooms up there or anything. You know, like so those tickets are the most affordable. So like that is like your entry level fan base, like the people that, hey, we can't afford the corporate seats in the East and the West Stadium, but we can sit in the South.
Trevor's going to have to be a hell of a politician on this. He is. Because there's going to be fans displaced. There's going to be fans that aren't able to get tickets anymore. He's going to have to explain it all in a very diplomatic way, a very intelligent way. It'll test him. I mean, because people coming at you test you. But I'm going to tell you something about ADs. I learned this a long time ago about ADs. It's not a popularity contest because ADs have to say no. They have to say no to people a lot. That's what makes that job very difficult.
Trev will say this move for the stadium is not about one season or 2 seasons of your seats. This is about 100. This is a 100-year decision, not about one season.
Right.
We're doing this for the betterment of this facility for the next 100 years.
But you got to sell that in a very real time way. Some people aren't going to want to hear about 100 years, Sean. They want to enjoy Dylan Raiola.
Yeah,
I should quit saying that. By the way.
He's going to be the guy. Like, look, don't try to be the.
They want to enjoy Nebraska football right now.
But yeah,
they're not thinking about 100 years down.
What about Dylan Raiola delivers a great first year, and what the definition of that is very different for people. But if they have a good first year, then his second and third years at Nebraska, which could be his last 2 years.
Right. Good point.
I mean, if all goes well, that guy, he's not a 4 or 5 year college quarterback.
Exactly. Keep going. Mailbag.
All right, that's it. When we come back, I want to talk Big Ten coaching stuff. Jim Harbaugh, Kalen DeBoer to Washington, and some of the other trickle effect we've seen. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We're here in Honolulu, Hawaii, at the Sheraton Princess. It's the headquarters of the Polynesian Bowl. We'll be heading out to practice here later today. Before we get into some final thoughts here on our first show from Hawaii. Once again, our coverage this week brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill Tavern 180. Get into Tanner's, watch the NFL playoffs, the football. No better place to go to watch games in Lincoln. Go next door, get a steak at Tavern 180. And then also HBE Consultants and Advisors. It's that time of year, get your taxes done. You want to get all that work done. They've been working with me since 2007. They also have a wealth management division as well. To help manage your portfolios. Just great people, a great firm to work with here in Lincoln. HBE Advisors and Consultants all sponsoring us this week from Honolulu. All right, final thoughts, Steve Sipple, here in this segment. I want to talk about Jim Harbaugh. I want to talk about the ever-moving shape of the Big Ten Conference where, 2 weeks ago, you're like, wow, Harbaugh, Kalen DeBoer. Well, both those guys might be gone. Well, DeBoer is gone to Alabama. Washington, to me, looks like they're in full rebuild mode.
Pretty much, yeah. So DeBoer's gone to Alabama, obviously. They lost a ton of talent, as you'd expect. They hired Jed Fish. Washington hired Jed Fish. Now, maybe Jed Fish, Sean, isn't it the way it works now that you hope your head coach brings a ton of talent with him? Maybe Jed Fish will bring some talent from Arizona.
His quarterback, he had that freshman quarterback,
Fafita,
that could come with him. But
I butchered his name probably, but it's something like that. Yeah, you could get that.
You also called Oahu the Big Island.
Yeah, let's settle that right now. In introducing my column on our Husker Online message board, I called it the Big Island. This is not the Big Island.
Hilo is the Big Island.
I was corrected by many people. So I will not make that mistake again. Again, we are just literally settling in here. But
Jet
anyway,
lag.
So yeah, these coaching situations are monumental. Harbaugh interviewed with the San Diego Chargers yesterday, Monday. It's what I'm hearing about Harbaugh is it's far from a done deal that he's leaving Michigan. Now I've changed. I mean, that's just what I'm hearing. I still think he'll leave. Because I don't think he'll want to deal with the fallout of all these NCAA issues that have transpired over the past several months. Because he's going to have to keep dealing with them, amigo. They're not going away.
And he's trolling him. He's running his mouth a little bit, taking jabs at him. And they're probably motivated to want to get him back a little bit.
What I heard sources is it's 50-50 right now. that there's a 50% chance that he'd be back at Michigan as the head coach, which would be gigantic for Michigan, even though that they're losing McCarthy at quarterback. They're losing Blake Corum at running back. They'll lose others. But if you get Harbaugh back, tell me if I'm wrong, you look at Michigan as still the big dog, right?
Just think about what it does for the brand and the value of the league when you have Harbaugh and even DeBoer. DeBoer leaving Washington to Alabama is a blow for the Big Ten.
Blow for the brand. Harbaugh leaving, huge blow for the brand.
Because Washington with DeBoer was going to be factor.
Yeah.
And they might still be.
They might.
But DeBoer was special.
Look at all the guys Washington's losing. Roma Dunze, Polk, the receiver, Dylan Johnson. And then, then there's the linebacker types that are leaving too. That they're getting pretty much decimated. So what's the top of the Big Ten going to look like? I don't know. I mean, I think Oregon and Ohio State is where you start that conversation, especially if Harbaugh leaves. If Harbaugh leaves, that'll be what we're looking at.
Is it as simple as Sharon Moore gets the job at Michigan?
At Michigan, I think so.
Because what would happen, you'd be fearful of them losing their entire roster.
Or a lot of it.
And then Sharon Moore at least keeps it. And I've heard things like that out there, like Oregon State promoted Trent Bray because that at least kept their roster intact.
I'm glad you brought that up. Behind the scenes, I mean, I was told they were going to look outside. That's what I was told, that Oregon State was going to look outside, but then the players rose up and said, no, this has got to be the guy. And wouldn't you say that players have that more power in that regard than ever?
For sure.
Now, that needs to be a conversation, because that's how Bray got that job. They were going to look. I was told Oregon State was going outside until inside the players made a lot of noise, and then they hired Bray. So anyway,
40 players say we'll go in the portal, that would get your attention.
In the real good ones from a pretty good program, yeah. So anyway, we'll be watching Harbaugh's situation. Again, he interviewed with the Chargers on Monday. He'll have I will imagine, another interview or multiple interviews, and then just see where it goes.
Yeah, I'll be really fascinated to see how that plays out. I mean, the Big Ten, with these new teams coming in, I mean, I think Oregon is the one that is the best of the four. USC,
5-loss team last year.
A lot of questions. They did beat Louisville.
They did
in the bowl game. That was a nice win.
It was a nice win, especially when you consider they had 24 players opt out of that game, or 24 players.
Jaden Maeva from UNLV is going to go to USC and probably be the quarterback.
Yep, we'll see about them. They play terrible defense. I don't look at USC and UCLA the way I look at Oregon.
And Chip Kelly survived.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, there were reports he was going to get pushed out.
Yeah, a lot of reports. Oregon's the beast of those four coming over easily.
Yeah, and keeping Lanning. And do you think Lanning had the offer from Alabama if he wanted it?
Yes.
So Lanning, it was Lanning,
Sarkisian. I mean, the way it was presented by, for instance, Joe Klatt was pretty predictable. Lanning turned down, Sarkisian turned down, and then they would go to DeBoer and he would take it. All of those guys, Lanning, Sarkisian, DeBoer, represented by Jimmy Sexton, the super agent from Memphis. Jimmy Sexton controls so much, and I think he basically controlled the Alabama search. So that's, Jimmy Sexton also has Mike Norvell, also has James Franklin, also has Dabo Sweeney. It's no wonder that Greg Byrne, I don't believe, got a search firm, Sean. Why would he get a search firm? He's got to call Jimmy Sexton.
Why would you pay a search firm hundreds of thousands of dollars
when you just make a phone call to Jimmy Sexton?
Well, and let's be honest, a job like Alabama, you're not trying to fish up new candidates.
No. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, you're not trying to find a sleeper out there, like diamond in the rough.
A search firm, like I remember when Nebraska, they used one, right, with Trev.
I think so.
Yeah, they did. But like Jeff, they like Jeff Traylor was taught. Like, Alabama's not looking at guys like that, you
Right.
know.
They're not trying to dig up a diamond in the rough at Alabama.
There's a really good up-and-coming coordinator at this Mountain West school.
Right. Yeah, we got to get on him. Or there's a real good guy calling plays behind the scenes with the Houston Texans. No, it's not. That's not who's getting out.
All right, the sun is kind of taking over behind me here, Steve Sipple. So
let's wrap it up.
let's appreciate our producer Trey putting the show together for us, and Jesse Sapolu for joining us. We're going to have a lot of coverage throughout the week here from Hawaii. Looking forward to that. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan. Once again, our shows all week brought to you by Tanner Sports Bar and Grill, Tavern 180 in Lincoln, as well as HBE Consultants and Advisors.